Welcome to Founders Future, a podcast powered by Closers.io, where we dive into the journeys of innovative entrepreneurs and explore the road ahead for them and their companies. I'm your host, Ammar, and in each episode, we uncover the stories behind impactful ventures, the challenges faced along the way, and the strategies driving their future growth. Today, we are absolutely thrilled to be joined by Aris Federman, the founder at Blue Oak Productions, a video production agency creating compelling brand and story-driven content. With a background in entertainment media, storytelling, and branded content, Aris brings a unique perspective to content marketing that fuses high-quality visuals with strategic storytelling. Aris, welcome to Founders Future.
Hey, thank you so much for having me. I appreciate the conversations that you're having on this podcast and sort of the space you're facilitating. Looking forward to being here and chatting.
I appreciate that. I always like to start from the beginning. So take me on a little trip down memory lane to before you started Blue Oak Productions. What were you doing at the time? And then what was really the motivation behind starting the company?
Yeah, that's an interesting journey. It's one that's ripe with pivots and evolutions, which I think is just something that's a baseline element of life. At the time, I actually have my degree. It's a BFA in acting, so not business at all, and not film production either. But while I was paused during the pandemic and the world shut down, we were all looking for ways to pick up new skills. And something I was really interested in is how can I continue to tell stories in a time when things like what I was getting my degree for, primarily like theater and a lot of large film production, has paused, right? And so I picked up a camera for the first time and I said, wow, I really enjoy this. And there was a spark there, like an evolution. And so from there, I got really interested in making different films, collaborating with other filmmakers and creators in the film and video space. And on that journey, I found a few like-minded creators who shared some of the same core values that I did surrounding this kind of work. And we banded together and we started Blue Oak Productions. What's interesting is Blue Oak Productions now, it's a full service production company that does both narrative entertainment and brand storytelling
Mm.
slash the commercial thing. But when it began, the initial impetus was just to do the narrative entertainment. But about, I'd say, a year into our founding, we got really interested in this idea. You said these skill sets, the storytelling skill set, and our capabilities as a group here. This can really apply to a space that benefits companies and fills a need. A big sort of thing that's a conversation right now is content. Everyone's talking about content. The airwaves, it feels like it's full of content, whether that's strategies that are about just quantity of putting things out there or the rise of AI content, which is expediting that. And I think people and what we identified as people are really hungry for authenticity. In a lot of cases, I think the audience, the proverbial audience for a company, which is the consumer that they can help, right? They also want to know about your mission and how you're living that out, your culture, and also the community that you're really building around a product, not just the product or the solution itself, right?
Yeah.
And so that's the problem that we're aiming to solve with Blue Oak and the work that we do. And sometimes that varies, right? It's quite the umbrella of types of work with video as a tool. Sometimes it's a mini doc, sometimes it's event coverage that really feels like you're there in the room and gets you excited for the next one. And so the company, it's in its early stages, and we've been really excited so far by the stories that we've been able to tell, not just the narrative end, but like with the different companies we've worked with and the companies we've gotten to know and communicating their mission, because that's when you get down to it, it's actually a really intimate thing, someone's brand promise. So it's been a rewarding journey so far. And it's interesting because there's such a variety of different types of projects, but different types of companies as well. We've done work with artisan bakeries to medical device companies and onward. And so the clear through line between all of those, the fact that all of these organizations have a problem they're looking to solve and a sort of unique story that they're looking to tell. And that's really what we'd like to hone in on from a start to finish process, learning about what their aims and their goals are, who they're trying to connect with, what's unique about them, and then whether it's acquiring location permits, screenwriting, music composition, all of our own equipment and everything, and conducting production with crew, making that and translating that into something that lives on moving image in a compelling way. So yeah, that's where we are now, and it's been a great
Yeah.
journey.
Thank you so much for breaking that down. And I find it so interesting that and admirable you took your passions before and found a way to weave that in Blue Oak Productions. And I'm a big, I don't know if you know the book Building a Story Brand.
Mm,
Donald Miller or something like that, I believe, was the guy that wrote it. I watched him speak and then I got the book. And I love that idea of marketing from a storytelling perspective because it's been around since cavemen days. People always like to say is we were sitting around the campfire telling stories. It's how we pass down knowledge and how we really
definitely.
remember things and cement things in our mind. Let's fast forward because you mentioned something very interesting, which is you've worked with all different types of companies. I'm curious if you would say you have a particular ideal customer or ideal client profile that you like to focus in on.
Yeah, so it's really fascinating because, like I said, there is such variety and there's such variety in the type of work that video can accomplish. Like I said,
Mm.
something interesting. You have people who are doing mini documentaries, and we just wrapped one of those for a company, and the focus on that is really showcasing the human side or the human element to maybe a solution or the space that they're in. Everything from that to event coverage to something that's more traditional, like story-based social media or commercial content. And so when I say ideal profile, I think a lot of it really has to do with identifying the fit through discovery, having discussions about a brand and their unique story and what they're looking to accomplish. And so much of it is really relationship oriented. You really get to know different companies, what they're trying to accomplish, and who they're trying to help as well, and deeply investing in those relationships. And that way, I think everything that we do, it's not really a production mill. Everything we do is really bespoke, I think is the right word. We really try and tailor not just to aims, but to the unique voice that an organization has or what they're trying to accomplish. And that's our aim and our goal. I'm not sure. I might have gotten away from your question a little bit there,
No, no,
but
that's good, man. I'm curious your perspective on this because obviously I'm sure you've heard the riches are in the niches. So I'm curious with your thought process around niching down. What implications does it have from a marketing perspective when you're looking to generate leads to be a little bit
mhm.
more broad and a little bit more general?
Yeah, so there's definitely something to be said for niching down and positioning yourself as like a leader in a very hyper specific space. And I think the niche that we found and the niche that we're really leaning into are identifying and working with companies that are really interested in creating community or authentic sort of communities around their solution, and companies that really have a deep concern with making sure that their brand promise and their mission comes through. And sometimes that's internal, right? Even with something like a training, right? If that's for a training that's internal, the need to be able to articulate and express and energize what's unique about what you do and your culture also follows that. So I think that's really where we're interested and where we're looking and where we provide value and where we help. The beauty of it is everyone does have a story, right? And everyone has a unique journey as to how they got where they're going, which is one of the things I actually appreciate what you guys are doing with this podcast, right? Because you guys are creating a space for people to share that about their own businesses as well. But yeah, no, so I think there's definitely something to, you know what, there's something to be said, and something that we focus on a lot with the work that we do for people is you have to know what you've made and you have to know who your audience is. And that applies to both the narrative entertainment and the commercial element and the marketing element, right? Who is your audience? Who are you trying to reach? What spaces are you trying to reach them in? Where are they? Meet them where they're at. And then what's the best tone to take that's authentic to you that also resonates with them? It's about communicating who you are to them beyond just an image or a tagline for a product.
100%. I'm curious your perspective on this because you mentioned you offer bespoke solutions. When you think of scale, and I'm not sure if you're looking to scale, maybe you can elaborate on what some of your goals are. But
Mhm.
I've talked to hundreds of people at this point, and what I found is that the more bespoke the solution is, it presents limits when it comes to capacity to how many clients you can bring on at a particular moment and actually deliver good results. When you think about scale from a fulfillment standpoint, what is your thought process there? And have you guys run into capacity issues? Maybe you're at capacity now. Walk me through that.
Listen, there's always the element of wishing that there was more time in the day, right? I don't know anybody who thinks that it would be great less time. But I think you make an excellent point. There is a challenge in managing time effectively while maintaining deep personalized attention to each client and each project. Because, like I said, every project is very unique, and we really do prioritize, I think, quality and relationship building over rapid volume. That's been something that's been a core element of what we do. But that focus on thoughtful growth means that we're intentionally scaling in a way that we believe makes Blue Oak or preserves what makes Blue Oak distinct. And we're looking for solutions for that. And part of that has to do with not just the on-set stuff, right? That's just the tip of the iceberg, but
Mhm.
it's actually the business running, development, the outreach, the other elements that hide beneath the water a little bit too. We're currently working on generating ways to create SOPs and automate and scale up some of those processes to boost our capacity, because the vision is to continue to grow and to continue to scale and to continue to work with and learn about fantastic companies and their solutions. I think a big part of maintaining the quality is also establishing a very clear company culture internally, right? Having your core values and having a constant discussion about how each of the actions we take on a day-to-day basis, how it serves those ideals and that culture. And so active maintenance and active investment in culture is and has been and continues to be, and I foresee will be in the future, a key element of that.
Yeah, I love that. You mentioned looking for solutions. What are you guys looking for solutions in specifically?
I would say right now we're taking a lot of time and we've been doing a lot of analysis on, all right, so what has happened organically? What has happened authentically? And then how can we generate SOPs and other elements to solidify that? And we've had some success with that and are continuing to push down with that so that you're not reinventing the wheel every time you take on something. And so that's been a big element. I'd also say we're working currently internally on tools for outreach. A lot of what we've done so far has been warm referral based and personal relationship based. This is a heavily like relationship heavy type of work, right? This is a service that surrounds something that's deeply personal, like a brand's identity in most cases. And taking the time to build relationships has been something that's been really important to us in our process so far. And that could mean reaching out to businesses we admire or asking smart questions and seeing where that kind of takes you. The world is full of like really fast, quick, cheap interactions. Look at your spam folder on your inbox, right? And oftentimes, I think the thing that makes the difference is building those relationships. So now we're starting to question, as we build out our outreach efforts and bringing those to also like a digital space as well, where people are, who are trying to, because it depends on your industry. Like I said, there's a wide variety. Someone who's running a new exciting fashion line, they're going to be found probably on Instagram, right? But someone who's running a consulting firm, you're going to be speaking to them through LinkedIn. So meeting people where they're at and having conversations about that and finding the tools to scale up our ability to meet people where they
Yeah,
are while maintaining that personal sort of rapport is a big
yeah,
element of what we're up to.
yeah. So with the outreach piece, is the idea to be cold DMing, whether it's on LinkedIn, Sales Now, for example, or Instagram, cold email? Is it a combination? What's the thought process there?
Like I said, I think a big element is actively building the relationship. If there's a company that we admire or think has a really interesting story to tell, we engage with them primarily from a personal standpoint. There's a interaction with, hey, what are you doing? Keeping up with new developments that they have, staying engaged with them, and reaching out not necessarily from initially a sales standpoint, but from a human standpoint. I think so much of the space, like I said, can be dominated by fast and quick pitches. And a lot of that runs the risk of looking like you're more interested in selling something than actually investing in solving a problem, which is why you start a business, right? Why you go on the entrepreneurship journey to help solve problems. And to do that, especially in our space, you really have to know somebody. Continuing to facilitate more of those conversations and scale that up, in addition to displaying the work and some of the stories that we have been able to tell and
Mm,
putting those out in a sponsored sort of space as well to spark conversations, I think are two of the main discussions that we're having, building out a funnel through those two means.
okay. Very interesting. Very exciting as well. When you think of the sales process side, and we can briefly touch upon this super quick. Once a lead does come in through the door, what are the different steps that they go through for them to become a client?
Yeah, totally. So it begins with my absolute favorite part of this whole process, which is just discovery. The most exciting part of this process because you really get the opportunity to learn. Usually it begins with a call primarily aimed at what the client is envisioning and what they're trying to accomplish. I think it's easy, especially if you're a talker like I am, to come in with a bunch of talking points about who you are, what you do, why you're a great fit, but it's really about listening and asking questions. Things like in your dream scenario, no budget, what are we making here? And what impact are you hoping this project will have? Who are you trying to reach? These calls are about them, the prospective collaborator. And then from there, you put that into a pitch. Here's our idea for an effective piece of media that will help you accomplish these goals. Here's the different ways that we could approach it and tackle it. And then that's refined together, talking about not just the possibility, but walking through the process. It really depends on the company, but sometimes people don't have a ton of direct experience working with like a production house to put something together for start to finish, right? So in that way, being a partner, right, and walking someone through the process is a big part of that. And from there, we start to set the different benchmarks from for what a collaboration would look like. And like I said, that changes depending on the project. If it's event coverage, you might talk about, okay, here are some of the specific moments we want to try and capture. Here's some people we want to try and record. And if it's something that's more like a traditional commercial, right? You talk about, "Well, here's how we're drafting the script. Let's make a shot list. Where are our locations, our actors, our permits, right?" And yeah, that's generally the flow and the process of how it works.
Okay, very cool. When you think of your vision and where you want to take the company, let's say over the next 12 months, there's some revenue targets, performance targets. What are you really aiming towards?
Yeah, so we're definitely looking for growth, both in the narrative side and the commercial side. And we've seen a lot of progress with that so far. So, with the narrative work, we just released a film that's gone around to multiple film festivals. It just won Best Cinematography at the Santa Fe Film Festival, which is a wonderful festival that we love. And it's been exciting seeing that sort of find its audience and continuing to scale up that kind of work and the stories we're able to tell on that front. But also in the commercial end, like I said, finding ways to make more time in the day and continue to work with and keep that bespoke sort of feeling, but push forward and work with an increasing variety of companies. As for internal revenue targets, we're keeping that private for now, but I can say that the focus has definitely been on steady, intentional growth. And the key drivers that we're really leaning into for that are refining our outreach systems, which we touched on, and then continuing to strengthen client relationships and also making our internal workflows, those things that have happened organically, more scalable without
Mm,
losing that bespoke sort of quality.
boom. There we go. What is the best way for people to reach out to you to work with you?
Yeah, so you can actually find us on our website, blueoakproductions.com. And from there, you can see our reel and some examples of other work and learn more about sort of our own story and mission. And reach out to us in there. We'd love to hear about what it is that you offer and what you are creating and what problem you solve and for who, and how we could help communicate and connect to that audience. And at the very least, it's just very cool to hear about what other people are up to. So
I love it. And real quick, before we wrap up, if you were talking to new entrepreneurs and think of yourself when you were first starting off, what do you wish that
mhm.
somebody had told you when you were first endeavoring with starting Blue Oak Productions?
I think it's don't wait for the perfect moment. Be a student of the school of hard knocks. I think people get really caught up in frozen imperfection and like having all of the right information. But entrepreneurship and also film production is a really sort of malleable space, and having all the information is a luxury. And you're going to have to make decisions despite this proverbial sort of fog of war that's over everything. But movement, even if it's imperfect, is better than no movement. So break things, experiment, get out there. And that's, I think, what I think I wish I would have been told earlier on and has been of great benefit to us as well.
Beautifully said. I love that. Aris,
Thank
thank
you.
you
I
so much for
appreciate
your
it.
time today.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you.
Anytime. So that wraps up another insightful episode of Founders Future. To our listeners, if you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to reach out to Aris at blueoakproductions.com. Also, while you're here, don't forget to subscribe to Founders Future wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. And if you are a business owner and you're looking to methodically scale your business and really enhance your sales and marketing efforts, visit closers.io to discover how we can support your growth journey. Until then, keep on climbing.